All right, joining me now to talk about politics first. I know he's an energy expert, and he's a great free market senator, and he believes in American first. But Kevin Cramer, Senator Kevin Cramer from the great state of North Dakota. Senator Cramer, you are such an all-around kind of guy. So I'm reading about you in another network's website. And I'll just read this. I would love to have 4 more years with Donald Trump, quite honestly. I'm pretty close to him. I'd love to have him start knowing what he knows now, start taking down the bureaucracy on day one rather than sort of trusting it. And then you go on to say, but at the same time, I think America would like a fresh start and maybe a Mike Pompeo. He's got the Trump doctrine down. He's believable on it. He understands it. He supports it himself. So Mike Pompeo's a good friend. You're his first major endorsement for president? Do I read that right?
Well, I was trying to make clear that I wasn't endorsing him, but he was the one I was talking about. And I do mean everything that you just read that I had said yesterday on another network, because I do think the Trump doctrine matters. Donald Trump tapped into something that's really important that Americans care about. That is an America first form of conservatism, an America first form of trade. And Mike has that down. He's been ultimately respectful of former President Trump. Now, that said, boy, I'd love 4 more years with Donald Trump as well if we could have that. But I'm just laying the groundwork for possibilities. That's all.
Well, of course, one of the things I remember several months ago, you and I were talking on the air on the Sunday show.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that Joe Manchin's trying to save the Democratic Party from himself, which made massive global news headlines because you were right. So I was just wondering if you were saying today that Mike Pompeo is going to save the Republican Party from itself.
As far as I know, Mike Pompeo is not a candidate for president. I don't know that he's put together a committee or not. But when I just think about the people in the Trump universe, Mike Pompeo has the Trump doctrine. He believes in it. He also has incredible international skills and knowledge, as well as energy. You know, I served with Mike on the Energy and Commerce Committee, sat right by him, in fact, in the House of Representatives. And so, to me, he just sort of fits the bill, if you will. He's a good friend, but you know, we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. It might be a moot point if Donald Trump gets in the race. Well,
do you think, I mean, part of your quote, I'm being semi-mischievous here, but it's having fun. It's Friday, and you're wonderful.
Sure, why not?
Do we think we need a fresh start? That's the key point. I mean, I've heard people say, I mean, I'll be honest with you, as a Trump supporter, as a Trump loyalist, who was forever grateful for President Trump giving me that position as director of NEC, but some people will say that they want to continue or return to the Trump policies, but would prefer a new face to execute them. Is that what you were trying to say? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just having some fun here, but, you know.
Well,
We need a fresh start.
Well, First of all, Donald Trump, I'm sure, is equally grateful that he gave you that opportunity, Larry, because you served the country so well in that position, and I really mean that.
Thank you,
With regard to what I was trying to say about a fresh face, is I hear the same thing that you're hearing, but I also have a lot of friends and know a lot of people that want the Donald Trump face back because they want that same fighting spirit. But whomever ends up being, you know, whatever the field looks like, they'd better be prepared to articulate an America first Trump doctrine. If they don't, they are missing what's been going on in this country and what's been going on in the Republican Party for the last several years.
Well, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's interesting, so many of these primaries, I mean, I know the president will endorse this one and that one, but you also notice in almost all cases, the contestants in these Republican primaries all regard themselves as Trump followers. Which shows, I think...
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
It is interesting. I submit that you and I probably 5, 6, 7 years ago felt a little bit differently about international trade, for example, than maybe we do now, or the globalizing the economy, or America's role in foreign policing efforts and whatnot. Donald Trump he didn't just tap into something Americans feel. He educated us on really what our priorities ought to be, and I respect him for that, and I appreciate that, and I think that that's still where America is. That's still where our party is. And if you want to be the president of the United States or a United States senator, congressman, or governor, you better understand that.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, I regard myself as a free trader. And I did not support the steel and aluminum tariffs that, frankly, came before my tenure. But nonetheless, regarding China, which, as Bob Lighthizer, former trade advisor and dear friend, has said could have been President Trump's greatest achievement and, quote, ringing the bell of the danger of China. They are an adversary. And Senator Cramer, I regard myself as a free trader, but not on China. China has no reciprocity, and I don't trust them. And I, supported the Trump tariffs then, and I continue to support them now.
No, I think that's an absolutely great example, and I think Bob Lighthizer is another great example of a really smart hire by Donald Trump. I call Bob every now and then when I want some advice on geopolitical issues, including energy and climate issues. Consider him really the expert of experts in the arena, and we'd all do well to listen closely to Bob Lighthizer as well.
Speaking of energy policies, I've got some sound from our undistinguished Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm. I want to let you hear this. Hang on a second.
Sure.
Are you telling me, under oath, that these policies had no effect?
I'm telling you that 94% of the oil and gas industry...
I'm not interested in their opinion. I'm interested in the facts.
So, no, they did not.
So, Senator Cramer, you're an energy expert yourself. So Josh Hawley was putting some pressure on Ms. Granholm, who steadfastly says, nah, their policies had nothing to do with the energy situation. I mean, does anybody truly believe that?
If people believed that, Joe Biden wouldn't have a 26% approval rating today. Oh. The problem with this administration is they never learn from their own mistakes. They believe their own rhetoric. Either that or they've resigned themselves to losing in November, and they want to do as much damage as they can before we get there. Because words matter, Larry, as you know. You and Kevin were talking about markets. Markets respond to politics. They respond to geopolitics. They respond to consumer confidence, investor confidence, taxes, regulations. And if you have a tax increase, regulation increase administration out talking like this, markets have to respond to that because they're still in charge, and they will be, for a couple of years after this next election in the White House. So these are significant words, and sometimes I like to think that maybe she's just ignorant. She has said so many crazy things, quite honestly, but I'm afraid they kind of believe it.
Well, I think Governor Granholm is towing the line, but it strikes me as odd, coming from Detroit and her relationship with the UAW and so forth, that she would become such a passionate greenie. I mean, you listen, Senator, you know as well as I do, you can talk about leases all you want, but if you're not going to get permits and you have these crazy NEPA permitting, the Interior Department, we're going to talk about it later with former EPA Commissioner. That's the outcome. So we got $110 oil and $6 gasoline. She's in denial about it. It's a pity. But anyway,
how about when you push this ESG nonsense on the SEC and the Federal Reserve and the Comptroller of the Currency and every other USDA, every body, every chamber, every administrative agency and sub-agency, they're all pushing the same narrative. That has a chilling effect on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, they've turned it into the Securities and Environmental Commissions instead of the Securities Exchange Commission. It's a good subject for us on another segment. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it very, very much.